Hello, it's Bruce here. Today I want to talk to you about something a little bit different, and that is how we can add sound to some of our structures on our layouts or modules, or ambient background sounds that are not associated with a particular structure at all, and to do so inexpensively. I guess the question might come up as to why would I want to add sound to my layout in any form. Many of us already have, through DCC, sound in our locomotives, and why do we need anything else? And I think it's because kids of all ages enjoy pushing a button and hearing a sound play that's associated with what you just did. I know that my grandkids and now great-grandkids will have a blast as I build my new layout if I include some sound. And when I had my Jersey Highlands Railroad layout built in New Jersey, I really only had two special effects. I had one light effect, which was a simulated arc welder that was located inside a back shop by the main yard, and you pushed a button, and as long as you held the button in, the arc welder would flash, and it would look like the crew was busy welding something. The other was a sound effect. It was inserted inside my rock crusher, and when you pushed a momentary button, that is, push it and leave it go, it would activate a commercial sound module that my sons had given me for Christmas a while back that simulated the very noisy sound of rock being crushed inside there. And you can listen to that if you find my YouTube video on the Jersey Highlands Railroad Quarry branch. I do play that sound in that, but that was the only sound and extra effects that I had. But as I build my new layout, I want to have a few more. In particular, I would like to add some sound to my coal tipples, and in the process of building one right now, which is why I took this little trip down a rabbit hole to either buy a commercial sound effect machine or build my own. I would like to have one associated with my sawmill, maybe my oil derrick. I found some good pumping sounds, and so forth. Now, if you buy a commercial soundboard, and there's one or two major suppliers out there, and their products are excellent, you'd pay, I think right now the going price is $39.95 for the board, which does not include the button, the wiring, the speaker, power supply, etc., just the board. The speakers on that particular site that I looked at were about $7, so now we're up to about $47 plus the button and the wiring. I'll forget the power supply because what I'm going to talk to you about requires a power supply too. Oh, we're probably up near $50 per setup. So I was talking about a couple coal tipples, a sawmill, perhaps the oil derrick, so it's four things right there. That's if I don't do anything with the barnyard or any other ambient sounds. So that's like $200. So I started looking at what was out there that we can use and make up for ourselves. And that's really what I want to talk about in this video. There are a lot of recordable sound modules out there. If you search on the internet, many of them are available through Amazon. I was drawn to this IC station, as you can see in this sign, 8 megabyte. That's the size of the chip in there, so you can download up to an 8 megabyte MP3 or WAV file onto that board. So you want to look for recordable sound modules, and I was drawn to this one for a couple of reasons. First of all, the price. $12.99 last week on Amazon for what you see here. That includes a push button activator, a relatively inexpensive, but believe it or not, quite good little speaker, and a power cord. I wanted one that did not have a built-in sockets for batteries. I don't want to be replacing batteries inside my structures. I want to run a power wire out of the structure and hook it up to an external power supply. I liked this setup because each of the devices that you may want to change or move or extend to someplace else are on wires that you can cut, splice, lengthen. So if I wanted to either move this speaker somewhere external to the structure, I just cut the wires, splice it, reconnect it to what's left hanging off the speaker, cut it about here and splice, run the extra length of wire, put the speaker wherever you want. You want a better speaker? Again, cut the wire it to the better speaker. You want to put the on-off button on your fascia? Just cut it here, extend that wire, either use this button or probably some other button on your fascia. The power supplies, the red and black wires that are running, you can lengthen and bring to a junction that maybe is powering 3 or 4 of these sound units from the same power supply. So I liked the flexibility and the fact that it was programmable. They supply a micro USB cable, data cable, that goes into this socket right here on the board and then to your USB port on your computer, and the computer's going to look at it just like an external hard drive or a thumb drive. So you can put your sound files onto it, change them, whatever you want to do. So that cable came with it. There is from the factory, it came with a song being sung in Chinese, just to show you that it did work. And they, you just hook this up the first time and reformat the thumb drive there, and then load your own sounds onto it. And as I said, it'll handle either MP3 or WAV files. And you can get a file. There's no limit for how many minutes of activity you get when you push the button. It'll play whatever file will fit in 8 megabytes, and certainly a couple minutes long. This board has flexibility. When the way it comes from the factory, when you push the button and leave go, it plays whatever file is on there until the end and then stops. And if you want to play it again, you push the button again. If halfway through the sound you figured you had enough of that sound, you just push the button again and it stops it. So it acts like an on-off switch, and if you push it on, it plays through whatever file's on there. But there are 3 resistors on this tiny little 1.5" by 1.5" board, and they show you in their instructions all different ways that by removing certain resistors you can get this thing to play the sounds in different manners, one of which is continuous looping. Now I'm going to leave the the board wired just the way it came from the factory because that's the way I want to use it. But this board has a lot of flexibility. By the way, when it came in its little package from Amazon, it was inside this bubble wrap, and that was inside that, and here were your instructions. You had to scan this in order to get the instruction sheet. But never fear if you don't know how to use those kind of things. This sheet is actually on the Amazon website under IC Station. Excuse me. So again, I like this one because of the flexibility, because of all these wires that can be lengthened and swapped out and so forth. And it's small enough to fit inside the structure that I'm building, certainly, and inside most structures. Let's talk about, fine, that's hardware looks great. Where do I find my sounds? I found a couple of sites. Let me make sure that that's, it is, okay. I'm sure there's many, many more, but for free sounds, Zap Splat is it's a little takeoff on one of the uses that the people who use this website use. They use it to put sounds to cartoon. So, you know, a lot of zapping and splatting going on. But there was a lot of industrial sounds. There were train sounds. There were loads of other vehicle sounds. There were farm sounds. There were logging sounds. And they have a tremendous amount of it free. They do have a premium side that you pay for, but so far I've only used the free. Another free source for sound effects is Sound Bible, and again I found train sounds and other useful sounds for our uses. And you can just take one of their files, which is for the most part MP3 or WAV files, and load it onto this soundboard. Push the button, you got your sound. If you want to try to combine some sound effects or modify some, you need a MP3 editor, and this one is free. Again, it has a version that you pay for, but WavePad is free. And at 75 years old, after looking at a 3-minute video on YouTube that they link to, after I installed the WavePad, I was able to use it to do what I wanted to do, which was to take 2 different WAV files, do some cutting and pasting and augmenting and blending, and I figured it out. And if at age 75 I can figure it out in you know, a half hour of sitting in my chair, I'm sure you can too. So there's some resources, and again, you know, you certainly don't have to go with the same soundboard I had, because there are many. There's some that have greater memory, there's some that have greater flexibility on the way the sounds can be played back, etc. But I like this one. Now let's talk about power sources. This requires 4.5 to 5 volt input. And I looked through my rather large collection of wool warts, and believe it or not, almost all of them are either 9 or 12 volt. I did have one that said it was 5 volt. I found over the years not to trust what is on the label, so I put my multimeter on it and found out it was really 12 volt. So I'm glad I did not hook it up to this board before checking it out with my reliable old Radio Shack multimeter. Speaking of Radio Shack, before they closed, I had picked up this one wool wart that I actually paid for. All the rest of them came from devices over the years that went defunct, and I saved the power supplies. But this one is one of several that you can slide this slide to different outputs, all the way down to 1.5 volt and up to 12 volt. And so I set it to 4.5 volt, checked it with my multimeter, it was 12.4 volts, and I temporarily hooked that wool wart up to the power cables here. So the cost of $12.99 you would have to add a power supply of one type or another. You want to hook up a little battery pack to this, you can do that certainly. You might have a 5 volt wool wart, or I think it's a good investment to get one variable one at least. Let me just plug this in a minute so I can push the button and show you that indeed there is sound in there. And at a certain point I'll probably so I combined a couple different clanking and banging noises, and at the very end what I did was I added just a short snippet of 2 air horn blasts, which would tell the engineer that the first car is filled. Now you can move the second car into position. Push the button again. When it fills, you hear the blast at the end do the same thing, so that if you wanted to use this in an operating session as a way that the operator would know when to move the next car, it would do it. This runs for just under a minute, the way I have it modified right now. And there you go. So, you know, you may or may not be satisfied with the sounds you can find. I'm easily satisfied. That's close enough, those banging noises, to make me happy. And when the grandkids and great-grandkids are over and they push the button, it'll make them happy too. So there you go, adding sound to your structures or to your layout. Like I say, they have everything. They have, you know, the usual ambient sounds from crickets to frogs to, you know, horses and cows. It's up to you exactly how you want to approach your hobby. Okay, see you again.